Hey guys, what's going on? It's Cody Steck. Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another video. In this one, we're talking about 5 neighborhoods and suburbs that nobody is talking about here in Salt Lake. Now, we're going to talk about these, and I think these are important because if you're thinking about making a move here, or maybe you already live in the area, these might be some areas that you want to consider during that move. Now, we're going to talk about 4 different suburbs, and actually one is going to be a city that I think is a little bit underrated right now, and I really hope you enjoy this information. So before we jump into this, if you are thinking about making that move and you want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate here along the Wasatch Front, make sure to reach out to me. My team and I service the entire state of Utah, and we'd love to help you. If you're moving from out of state or you live right here in our own backyard right now, we'd love to hear from you. We've had people from all across the world reach out and love hearing everybody's different type of story. Let's jump into our map here and take a look at what we have. Okay, so the first one we're going to take a look at is we're actually going to look at the Suncrest neighborhood. Now, if you come down here, you can't quite see it on the map here, but this area here is considered Suncrest. Now, this is technically a part of Draper as far as like the city is concerned. So if you look up Suncrest, it's going to be a neighborhood within Draper. But there's also another nuance here that you need to know about, and that's that the part of Suncrest is actually going to be on the north side, which is going to be Salt Lake County, and you're going to have a portion over here on the Utah County side to the south. So depending on where you're at in the neighborhood, you could either be on the Salt Lake County side or the Lehigh/Utah County side. So it's a little bit hard to see here. It only looks like there's a couple roads here, but I'm going to go over here to this type of map and show you why this is so cool. So to give you a little bit of context on this area, this part of the mountain sticks out right here. So these mountains, if I zoom out here, these are considered the Wasatch Mountains, right? So this is the Wasatch Front, which is the front of the mountains. That's why we call it that. This little point right here is considered point of the mountain. So they're doing a little bit of mining here on the edge of it, and then the I-15 freeway runs, basically right around the edge of it right there. So you've got the point of the mountain right here, and then up on top of this mountain is actually going to be considered Suncrest. So you have Traverse Ridge, which comes up this way, and then it kind of winds it through here. It turns into Suncrest Drive, and then goes down into Lehigh and Alpine. So this is kind of Lehigh over here on the west side, and then Alpine over here on the east side. So this part of Suncrest, this picture almost looks a little bit outdated because it doesn't look like there's very many homes up there, but there actually is quite a few homes up there. So you can see that there's a ton of roads up here where they've started developing. You can see the lines in the roads, but as far as the picture is concerned, it still looks like it's just mountainside. So there's actually quite a few homes there. If I had to guess, I don't know, maybe 1,000 houses, 1,500 homes maybe. And there's a mix of, townhomes. There's a mix of just kind of like mid-level homes. And then there's also going to be custom homes. They're going to be $2, $3, $4 million in this area. So cool thing about this is you come up Traverse Ridge. This is an area where you're literally in the mountains. So you can see that it's all green around here. That's because you're literally in the mountains. So you get amazing views from here. You can go hiking, mountain biking. You can get outside very easily from this area. And so that's something that a lot of people really like. Now, one of the downsides I should talk about with this area, because it's important, is that because you do have to drive up Traverse Ridge or Suncrest Drive over here, if there is weather, specifically snow during the winter, it can be a little bit scary to make that. Sometimes the road gets shut down. So you kind of just have to account for that in your travels. If you're going to be living up there, you kind of have to be okay with that potential, hassle of having the road shut down every once in a while. So that kind of covers our first neighborhood here, our first suburb of Suncrest. Hey, real quick, guys, I want to tell you about the new newsletter that I'm going to be releasing here in the next little bit. If you want to sign up for it, go and click the link in the description box below. You'll just need your name and your email, and you'll be signed up for that newsletter. Now, this is going to be a newsletter that goes out every, probably 2 to 3 weeks or so, and it's going to have some information about what's happening in Utah, what's happening with the real estate market, what's happening with interest rates, and just kind of some information about the market overall. So if you want to sign up for that newsletter and be a part of that, make sure to click that link down below, and let's get back to the video. Now, the next one I want to actually talk about, we're going to zoom out here and come over here to Bluffdale. Now, Bluffdale is actually a city, right? So we're not talking about one specific suburb or neighborhood in Bluffdale. Now, the thing about Bluffdale that you need to know about, and why I think it's actually one of the most underrated cities right now, is because it sits so close to a couple of different things. Now, when we're talking about Bluffdale, it's not that it's necessarily, super cheap or anything like that. Of course, in fact, it's actually can be quite expensive to live in Bluffdale. I mean, single family homes, kind of the entry level stuff, is going to sell for about $500 to $550, and then it will go up from there. There's a couple houses in there, a couple little neighborhoods that are going to be $1 million, $2 million, even $3 million. So it just kind of depends on where you're at within Bluffdale. But the reason why I think Bluffdale is a little bit underrated right now is for a couple different reasons. Number one, you're super close to these other nice cities. Of course, Bluffdale is very nice itself, but if you're going into Draper, Sandy, South Jordan, Riverton, Harriman, or even over here to Daybreak, which is technically part of South Jordan, Bluffdale gives you super easy access to those areas. The other reason why I think it's underrated is because you've got super easy access down here to Lehigh. So if you work in tech, you're super close to that. You can just come over here to I-15, jump on the freeway, come down to Lehigh. It's probably only a 10, 15 minute drive depending on where and where you're going, where you're coming from and where you're going to. So that's another thing I think is really beneficial about it. And the other thing I want to mention here is that you do have currently the prison site. So this is the prison site. They just finished a brand new prison out by the Salt Lake City airport. So this is the old one right here, just kind of sitting on the west side of Draper. And there's about 600 acres of land right here that's going to be developed in the next couple of years. It's probably going to be 10 to 15 years before it's completely finished, but I'm guessing that they're going to probably tear down the prison in the next year and a half, and then they'll actually go through that development process where they're going to develop the land. They're going to put houses, parks, office buildings, a little bit of industrial. They're going to put tons of shopping, restaurants, all this stuff right here in this area. And I think it's going to be a very high class neighborhood, or a high class area, not only because it's brand new, but also because of the location. This is probably one of the best locations in the whole entire county. And so I think there's going to be a ton of growth going in there, and that's going to push home values up here in Bluffdale. So that's one of the better areas that I would consider if you're looking at purchasing. Now, zooming out a little bit, we're going to go to a different part of Salt Lake, and make sure to actually stay all the way till the end. Stick with me on this, guys, because we're going to be talking about some really important suburbs, and we're going to actually talk about one of my favorite areas where I actually used to live that I think is extremely underrated. So we're going to come up here, and that's going to be number 5 on the list. So you got to make sure to stick with me. Now we're going to come over here and take a drive or a little tour up I-80. I-80 is going to run up here, and this is going to be considered Parley's Canyon. So that's the name of this canyon right here. It goes all the way from Salt Lake down here on the west side. It goes up the canyon, and the suburb that I want to talk about is going to be Summit Park. Now, Summit Park, because you are in the mountains, because you are kind of on the way over here to Park City, Summit Park can be a little bit expensive compared to these other areas. For a single family home, you're probably looking at like $800, $900, or the low $1 million range for a home here in Summit Park. But I think there's a lot of really cool things going for this area. Number one, you're in the mountains, so you get amazing views all the way around. You can go hiking, you can go mountain biking, you can go climbing, you can do all these things from right around this area. The other thing I love about it is you're only a short, like 15 to 20 minute drive over here to Park City, where the ski resorts are. So it just kind of depends on traffic and weather, but yeah, maybe 15, 20 minutes at most to drive all the way from Summit Park over here to where you're going to go skiing. It's also only a short, probably 15 minutes to get down to the bottom of the canyon. So let's say you work downtown, or you go to the University of Utah, or you work at one of these hospitals or something. This could be a great area to live because you get out of the city, you get up out of the inversion, but you're only a short 15 to 20 minute drive down into downtown Salt Lake City. So I think that's one thing that really makes this enticing. I think there's actually going to be a ton of growth here over the next 10, 15, 20 years because of the proximity that it has, not only to Park City but also to downtown Salt Lake. I think people are going to be willing to pay a premium for that to be relatively close, but also have easy access to it. Now, let's say that maybe you don't want to live in Summit Park. You don't want to be driving up the canyon during the winter. Maybe you're looking for another option that is somewhat similar, but is going to be a little bit closer into town. That's where this is going to lead us into Mount Olympus or Olympus Cove. So this area here, this is considered Mount Olympus because you have the peak of Mount Olympus right here. So Mount Olympus, and that's a gnarly hike, by the way, if you're ever going to do it, it's pretty intense. But Mount Olympus right here, or Olympus Cove, this is kind of the cove of the mountain. So everything east of I-215 right here is going to be considered Olympus Cove. This is a really cool area. I've made videos specifically about this area in the past. It's an area that I would love to live. Most of the homes there were built in like the 60s, and they just kind of cool. They have that cool like mid-century modern vibe going with them. You get amazing views. You get tons of scrub oak up in that area, so it has a really cool feel as far as like outside, being on the streets, being on walks, being kind of in the mountains, and you're right here at the base of the canyon. There's a hiking trail trail right here, Neff's Canyon, that's really popular. That's some fantastic hiking there. And you're also super close to Mill Creek Canyon right here, which is actually one of the canyons where dogs are allowed on certain days, either on leash or off leash. So a lot of people that have dogs love to go to Mill Creek Canyon for that reason. So Olympus Cove is going to be another one of those areas. It is going to be more expensive. You're probably looking at, 700 to 1.2 million for just kind of like an average decent house there. But they do range up to 1.5, 2 million. There's, going to be some that are even 3 or 4 million in this area. So it is really nice. And I think that's one of the benefits to living in this area. All right. Now, the last one that I want to talk about here is going to be an area, like I said earlier, where I actually used to live. And I only moved away from this area because we got into a bigger house with a little bit more property, my wife and I. And so we made this move away from an area that we really, really like. So the area that we're going to talk about here is going to be considered Willow Creek. Now, Willow Creek is actually a part of Sandy, and it kind of encompasses this whole area here around Willow Creek Country Club. So there's a country club that's right in here, super nice right there, but there's a ton of houses pretty much all the way from like Newcastle here on the south end, all the way up to Creek Road, maybe even a little bit beyond that. Right here, you can see you can see there's like a little bit of a hill or a canyon here that runs along this area. So pretty much everything from Newcastle up to there is going to be considered Willow Creek. And then it goes down, over here on the west side of Highland Drive just slightly. And then all the way up here to the East Bench where the canyons are at. So this whole entire area is considered Willow Creek, a super awesome area. Single family homes here, you're probably looking at like 700 to a million, depending on the, price point that you're, or how big it's going to be, how old it is, if it's remodeled, anything like that. And it's just a really nice area. The thing I love about living in this area is you're a short drive either to Little Cottonwood Canyon, which is over here, or Big Cottonwood Canyon over here. And you also get just kind of this like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's kind of just like a serene feel being there. There's lots of tall trees. It's really quiet. It's more of a mature neighborhood, so the demographics will probably trend a little bit older. People are going to have kids, but the kids are probably going to be like high school age. But I do think that's turning over. I mean, I've got 2 little ones at home, and there was a ton of kids in our specific neighborhood. So this is kind of turning over, but the general population is going to, trend a little bit older as far as demographics go. But I still think it would be a great area either for, young families or, families that have kids that are, let's say, teenagers or something, right? So that's one of the things I love about it. And it's just really cool. I mean, you can take Creek Road all the way up here. It goes all the way from 1300 East here to Wasatch Boulevard up here. You're only short, 5, maybe 10-minute drive over here to Fort Union, which is where there's a ton of parking. You're super close to I-215 if you're trying to get around. There's just a lot of really cool benefits to living in this area. I think it's definitely an area, especially right here around the country club. If you're, looking in that $1 million to $1.5 million range, there's a ton of really cool houses that like back up to the course, or just kind of are even in these immediate neighborhoods here that are really, really cool. Have a really good feel to them. Super private, really nice, mature trees, big lots, all the things that most people are looking for. So with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and consider sharing this video with a friend or a family member who might also be interested in learning more about some of the best neighborhoods and suburbs here in Salt Lake that nobody's talking about. I'd really appreciate it. And last but not least, if you guys are thinking about making a move here, or you already live here in Salt Lake and you want to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, or maybe even build a home, I'd love to help you with that process. My information's here on the screen. I want to be your trusted real estate resource. Thank you for all the support you've given me. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing about your stories, where you're coming from, where you're going, just all of that. I really love hearing about it. So I can't wait to hear from you as well. And with that being said, catch you guys in the next one.